Let's just do it. We are live. This is awesome. All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of The Barber in the Basement. This is a podcast I've been kind of thinking about for a while. Honestly, I've been thinking about a podcast for a while, but I just didn't know where to start. And once I started getting into barbering, I thought, it'd be really cool. Um, you know, in barbershops, I just imagine people talking. Like, there's just conversations going on. I guess it'd be like your typical barbershop, but I just figured, there's so many great conversations flowing around, and it would be cool just to have a podcast that, not only can we talk about, stuff in the hair industry, the barber industry, and whatnot, but we could just talk about, like, your normal stuff, basically anything except for politics and things that are gonna like piss people off. So I finally, like, I had all the audio equipment and everything, minus like a few things, but other than that, I had everything I needed to get this podcast up and running. I have a beautiful backdrop here because this is where I cut hair and everything, and I thought, man, that'd be a great idea. And I've talked to some other people, so yeah, here it is, the first live stream of this podcast. I'm actually really excited about this. Um, you know, Throughout the week, I work a normal 9 to 5 job, and I'm there's always so many things that I think about during the day, just like different topics, um, what have you. And this, this is kind of a way for me. Having this podcast is a way for me to kind of like vent about my stuff. Not necessarily like negative type things, but there's always I always have like a good story that I could tell based on from working, because in the industry I'm in. I mean, right now I'm in the grocery industry, the grocery business, and I meet a lot of people, a lot of good, a lot of bad, but you interact with so many people, and just in general, the type of job I have, I'm on my own, so I'm able to, like, there's no manager necessarily like watching over me. And with that being said, it's a lot less stressful. It's a lot more easygoing of a job. Really, just kind of do my own thing, which is really cool. And that leaves me to just let my mind wander because my job is pretty easy. So I don't really have to focus too hard because I'm not like scared of cutting my hand off or nothing like that. So I can just pretty much go about my day and think about different things, which is really cool. Um, this I wasn't really sure how to like start this podcast as far as like this first live stream, so I'm just kind of winging it right now. I really don't have a ton of ideas written down, but this is more or less just introducing myself to you guys. My name is Nick, currently going to attending barber school right now. If you look at all the other videos, like if you're new to this, if you look at my other videos, I have videos from when pretty much when I first really started cutting hair up until this point now. I've been doing most of my haircuts in the school I go to. So for those who don't know, in the barber school that I'm going to, the front of the building is a barber shop. So when I'm there, 5:30 to 9:30 p.m., people can just walk in and get haircuts, and it's like $4 haircuts. So we get a decent amount of walk-ins. So where the hell was I going with that idea? But yeah, people can just walk in and get haircuts. So it's very like laid back, and it's the best way of schooling that I could think of. First couple weeks were like book work and whatnot, but now that we actually have our clippers and everything, we've been able to do haircuts. So oh yeah, so my idea, what I was saying earlier is before like it really started picking up at school, and like we were getting haircuts and like walk-ins and stuff there, I was doing haircuts here in like this little setup that I did downstairs. So I was able to do a lot more videos. And now I've basically been having people come into school because I have my teacher. So if there's any questions I have about a certain haircut, I'm able to ask right away and have these people leaving with a really good haircut. So now that, like, basically what I'm doing is the people that I know I'm going to be cutting their hair, like, long term, I bring them in to, we call it the clinic, so that I can essentially perfect their haircut there. And then that way, if they need to get a haircut, and I'm obviously, if I'm not at school, like this weekend, they could just come over to my place and I can give them a haircut, which is really cool. So early on, I kind of jumped the gun with building this whole area down here and building the platform, but it's really turned out to be an awesome idea, and really honestly makes me utilize the space in my basement. So it's been really cool. Um, the funny thing is, I actually did this live stream on what day was it? I did it on Thursday, but there was a button that I completely forgot to press. So I was doing this podcast, and I was basically talking about the same things that I'm talking about now, but there was one button I forgot to press. So all that people could see was my logo on the screen, and it says like basically waiting, like, hey, this podcast is gonna be starting soon. Well, it never began. So what's funny about it is there was like three people like just waiting for me to start the podcast, and it just never never happened. So I wanted to make it a point to get this first podcast out there and get it off my chest, so that I can get a feel for it, and you guys can kind of give me feedback and all that fun stuff. So with that being said, one of the things that I was talking about on Thursday was the next day, Friday, at school we were doing we had an event going on. The cool thing about this school is they're all about Rochester. So everything that they do, whether they're buying like products or things that they acquire for the school, the people that they work with, they support Rochester in general. So a lot of the people that they go through are local, like Rochester companies, which is really cool because they're supporting locally. So part of that, you know, the way that they're keeping, you know, that kind of going is they reach out to local places like I'm trying to think. They basically reach out to like local places where we're able to go and set up our stuff and do free haircuts for people. So Friday we went to I don't even know exactly how you would describe this place, but essentially the people that were living there had disabilities. A lot of them were older, so they were older folks. So I want to say it was kind of like an assisted living apartment complex, but we were able to go in and we basically just set up in the lobby, and people, it was packed. There was so many people, and they wrote their name down on the list, and you know, we had basic like regular chair, like we had regular like plastic foldable chairs, and we had plastic like tables, kind of like what I have here, and we just set up our stuff and like went away. Like we just did haircuts. Like they would ask us, or we would ask them, you know, what kind of haircut you're looking for, and they would tell us, and boom, you know, within 15-20 minutes they had a haircut. It was such a cool event for so many different reasons. Like up until this point, all of us have really just done like one-off haircuts. So like we'll get a walk-in to school, like we'll be at school and somebody will walk in, and that'll be like the one haircut we do in like a 4-hour period. This was cool because we all did like 3 to 4 haircuts in like an hour and a half period, which is really, it was cool. It gave us like that real experience of like doing back-to-back haircuts, which was really neat. And you know what? Surprisingly, it wasn't as nerve-wracking. Like all the, you know, through doing haircuts at school and through me doing haircuts like down here in my setup in the basement, I became like really comfortable with just doing haircuts in general, and I look forward to it. It's like kind of therapeutic for me, and I think for people getting haircuts, it's therapeutic. I mean, I enjoy getting haircuts, so it's really cool that we were able to experience that, and I'm like really excited for the next event. To be honest, that event went so quick. It was like I was just going and doing haircuts, and then before you know it, my teacher was like, all right, we're not accepting any more clients. You know, once you guys are done, start cleaning up. And I was like, really? Like I was just getting started, you know? So it was really cool. All the people whose hair I cut, they were really very nice, and like a lot of them were like really funny. Just the environment, because like everybody there, like they're older, they're either in wheelchairs or, you know, they're all have different walks of life, but they're all in this one place living together essentially, and they all know each other, and they all break each other's balls, which is so funny when you hear like older people just like picking on each other. It's like what we do. It's like what we do at school, like in the barber shop and stuff like that. And to see that they're still kind of having fun and doing that, it was really a cool event that I look forward to doing more of. And it got me thinking. It would be really cool to continue that like outside of school, to just like set up events and like be able to do that, because we as barbers, we provide a service, right? On the forefront of it, yeah, we provide a service. Like, people need a haircut, we cut their hair. But there's so much more to it than that, at least in my eyes. Like, I always, when I was younger, my parents, they didn't really have like, they didn't have much money, so like they weren't taking us to get haircuts. Maybe they would take my sisters, which I don't remember, but they would just buzz my hair. Like, they would just give me one length to be like a two, just buzz it. And I always hated that. So when I came to be like old enough to where I was like taking care of my own hair, I really cared about my hair. And whenever it was time, like whenever my dad would be like, "Hey buddy, you want to go get a haircut?" I'm like, "Yes, let's fucking go." And I didn't care who was cutting my hair. I was just like, "Yo, I just want a haircut." So for me, it provided like this really cool experience where you're getting freshened up. It's like something new. And as a kid, you don't know how to like explain how you want your hair done. So a lot of times you're just like, you're getting a new haircut every single time. Like, it's not really consistent. But I used to put like this like gel in my hair that was like a temporary coloring. So it'd be like red, blue. I don't think I ever did green, but I just always cared about my hair. So being able to be part of that experience for people, I want to say there's a lot of people out there that just go to the barbershop because they enjoy obviously getting a haircut, but they enjoy the environment. It's like an escape for them. So I'm really excited that I get to be part of that. I'm leaving a comment here on YouTube. If for those who are watching, feel free to comment me through here. I can comment you live. I'm still figuring this out as much as you guys are, so I apologize if it's a little lax with how I'm doing this, but I'm kind of figuring out how all this like live streaming and stuff works. So yeah, back to what I was saying. I feel like after I graduate, it'd be really cool just to reach out to local places that may like be able to host events like that, to where me and a couple of my friends, let's say, that cut hair, we can go and set up and do haircuts for a few hours or something like that. Like, the same idea. And I think that would be like a really cool thing to do. Like, why not? It'd be really cool. I gotta put this chapstick on because my lips are freaking killing me right now. And if you can't tell, my voice is, I'm all stuffed up because we're here in Rochester, New York, and it's pretty cold. And the wintertime, this is what I sound like, unfortunately. So my wife and I went to breakfast this morning, and one thing that we bring up decently, pretty often, we used to live in Georgia. That's actually where I met her, and we talk about it. Like, we both kind of miss Georgia in a way. Obviously, I love being in Rochester because my family's here and everything, but it's so cool to, like, Georgia is the only, the place that, I'm trying to think how to put this, like, because we lived in Florida too, and I didn't really like it that much, but, like, there's something about Georgia that I kind of, like, miss. I mean, obviously, the weather is pretty cool. Like, in the middle of winter, yeah, it still gets cold, like, in the 30s and stuff, but by the afternoon, late afternoon, it's up there and the sun is shining and it's beautiful. It's like the perfect climate for me because when it does snow, not a huge deal, but just knowing that it's not going to snow all the time. But there's just like this aura, I don't know. It took me, when I moved to Georgia, it took me about probably 2 years to really become acclimated and feel comfortable. Like this was my home, I'm always gonna love and enjoy where I'm from, because obviously, like, all my family stuff is here. But there's something like really positive about Georgia, which I enjoyed and which I didn't realize I would miss until I left. So that's one thing that my wife and we talk about a lot, and figuring out, because she just graduated from beauty school, so she's a esthetician and a nail tech. So we were trying to figure out like what would we have to do if we decided to make this move to Georgia? What would we have to do to basically take our craft now, me cutting hair and her doing nails and skincare? What would we have to do to like relocate and go to Georgia? So it's kind of a sweet idea to think about right now. Not that we're not enjoying our time in Rochester, but I felt really clear-minded. Not only did my allergies not fuck with me in Georgia, and I always felt pretty clean. Like I always felt very fresh air. And since I moved to Rochester, I've just felt, man, I've just been stuffed up and I've been sick, and I've been sick more in the last 2 years that I've been home here than I was in the 5 years that I was in Georgia. So overall, I just felt so much more motivated when I was in Georgia. I was also at a different point in my life as well, where I was like still working on like being a musician and pushing that out there. But it's a nice thought. It's definitely a nice, something nice to think about. But everyone's moving south at this point. Everyone, I mean, out of 10 people I talk to, there's like 5 or 6 of them that are like, yeah, we're moving to Carolina, or we're moving somewhere south, not here. They're moving because they, in their words, hate it here. I would be moving just to kind of get that little bit of positivity and happiness out there, I feel like it would just be really cool to be back in Atlanta. And I have some good friends out there that be cool to hang out with more often. So yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking about. If we do it, it's probably going to be in a couple years, but there's so many other things to think about. But we'll see. Maybe one day it'll be a podcast, and you'll see us in Georgia. So who knows? I know it's not gonna be Florida. I'll tell you that. I kind of wish I brought some water down here. I'm kind of thirsty right now. I've seen so many. I've watched so many podcasts. Not because I wanted to get into one and I wanted to learn how, but I just enjoy podcasts in general. So I've been able to kind of piece together certain things, like how to, like, really, I think the important thing is the backdrop. I mean, I'm not saying this backdrop is, like, perfect, but it's not like you probably couldn't tell that I was, like, in my basement right now, but it's really cool. One thing that I was talking about in the podcast I did that that never happened, it was never live, is like I was talking about success, right? So success is like is different for everybody. I think initially when you think of success, you think of a monetary value of, I was making, $20,000, and then like a year later I was making, $40,000. Now that is success. Like, don't get me wrong, it can have a monetary value, but I think people think that it only has a monetary value. But throughout the last like 10 years, so for like 9 years, I pursued like a music career. Like I really wanted to just perform live music, make music, and make money off of it. I realized at some point that, at least for me, how I wanted my life to go, it was an unrealistic expectation for the type of, because I wanted a family life, but I also wanted like that life of like being an entertainer. And I think you can do it, but it just it didn't seem like it was going to work out, and I was totally okay with that. But leading from that, stepping away from that, and then now being into like this barber thing, it like everything that I learned over those 9 years of pursuing music, like everything that encapsulate, whatever the word is, encompassed like being a musician, whether it's promoting on social media, creating a brand, the actual entertainment side of it, and then like the physical part of it where you're like making music, the creativity part of it. that all like came full circle into what I'm currently doing right now. Because as a barber, you got to promote yourself. Like no one, you can't just like rely on people walking through the door and like you making like a living off that. It's just not possible. Like it's not possible, I don't think, to live off like walk-ins unless you're living at home, like in your parents' basement. But so everything I learned from music, I'm now using and able to use like with what I'm doing. Like just to break it down for you, like the equipment that I'm using to make this podcast is equipment that I use for like making music. So really, there's not much like difference other than I don't have like a keyboard or none of that stuff. And then leading into like the networking and like social media part of it, sorry, my dog's here. Get away, get out of here. Leading into like the social media part, marketing, branding, and all that stuff. It like now I know how to do that stuff. Not saying I've perfected it in any way, and I can't sit here and give advice to all you guys on, this is how to get rich now. But I've been able to utilize that to now create my brand around what I'm doing now, barbering. So that to me is success, because I left a different person. I left Rochester a different person than what I was on, like when I came back. I was 21 when I left, so I was younger, of course, but there was like I had a different mindset about me. I always thought myself as like being pretty mature for my age, but now that I like moved back to Rochester, I feel like that's my maturity has matured, if that makes sense. Like my level of maturity has matured, and it's just really cool. Like that to me is success. Yeah, and obviously over the past 10 years, I've substantially made more money than I used to make, which I guess is success. But the focus for me wasn't on the money. The focus for me is improving myself and getting myself to a point to where I could exponentially increase the amount of money I was making. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't really... I didn't set this podcast up in hopes of getting rich tomorrow and having millions of viewers. But if that happens, that's awesome. If that's a product of what I'm doing, and if I'm like making the right moves, then that's like just a bonus in my eyes. But I'm really just doing this stuff personally for me, so I can get stuff off my chest, so I can talk to you guys about stuff in the barber industry, the way that I view it, and all that stuff. So I'm just really excited about this part of my life, because I'm creative again. Once I stopped doing music, I really stopped being creative, because music for 9 years was my outlet. After that, I didn't know what to do, because I was not a good I can't draw, so I'm not really good an artist as far as that goes. I've thought about writing books, but that's not it just wasn't it didn't line up enough. It didn't make enough sense for me, nor did I have the patience to sit down and write a book and all that stuff. Maybe in the future, but I really just kind of been going with the flow and seeing what feels right. Barber school feels right. Being a barber just feels right. It's something that I've kind of thought about before, but I never really considered it, because I had other plans, But yeah, I'm just totally excited where things are now going, and especially with my wife being in a similar industry, we want to take that. Like, we want to take the step eventually and have our own place together. We work really well together. Not everybody, not all couples do. Some couples that would be like a death wish to work together. But luckily, my wife and I, we ended up meeting in a place where we had to work together, and she was kind of my boss in a way. So that worked out. That worked out really, really well. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of keep this podcast semi-short. I mean, it's already 24 minutes, which is pretty solid. But this is really just like an introduction into the podcast. I look forward to, like, in the future. There's definitely some people I have in mind that I'm gonna actually have on this podcast that are just really cool people to talk to. Overall, just like really like I feel like nowadays it's hard to have like a good like a solid conversation with somebody because everyone's really kind of focused on their phones and everything else that's going on around them. And there's a select amount of people that I chat with on a daily basis, whether it's at work, whether it's like family, stuff like that, or just friends in general, that we can just talk for hours and hours about anything and not really be concerned with anything else around us, which is, it's like when you're in the moment, you're like, damn, this is just really awesome just to have a conversation with somebody. I think it's something that we need to do more of and get back into the more like face-to-face like interactions. It's like it's relieving. It's awesome. It's kind of like I watched the Joe Rogan podcast quite a bit. I haven't really watched it much lately, but one of the things I remember him talking about is like at one point, like we used to be wild. We used to be like wild. You know, we used to be more. I'm trying to think how to put this. We didn't live in houses. We didn't get the luxury of going to a grocery store and picking out our food. Like we had to go and like we had to be savages, man. We had to be savages, and we had to go out and kill animals and defend ourselves and all that fun stuff. Now we have it pretty easy. So there's a little piece of us, I feel like, as humans that like we're so far removed from like what we used to have to do to survive that I think in a way, and I feel this personally, like sometimes it's just nice to go in nature, be in nature and be like reconnected. And that's kind of how I feel with just being able to have like a cool shit like conversation with somebody. And I usually like it's usually weird, like let's say I like meet somebody just randomly. Let's say I just randomly strike up a conversation with somebody if I'm out and about, and we just sit there and have a good conversation. I'll even say it at the end, like I'll even say like, yo, I really appreciate you like having this conversation because not many people do. And what that person had brought to that time and place, that existence at that moment, just felt so awesome. Just so awesome to like use my brain again, because we're all like zombies walking around here like brain dead. It feels like. I'm not perfect. I've definitely done it. I do it, man. I sit on my fucking phone and watch YouTube videos, and it's just like it's something that I look forward to. You know, I get home from work and just to decompress, man. I take my work clothes off, I lay down and just throw my phone up. It's such like a habit to do. Which kind of I'm gonna close out with this, right? It brings me into my next thing. So last month, whether you saw the video or not, you can go watch it in my channel. I can't remember what it's titled, but let me see. Let's see if I can find it. Basically, I talked about. Let's see. I think it's titled. Okay, it's called Must Watch. I Have Feelings. Warning. Could be motivational. In that video, I read off my short-term goals that I created for November, things I wanted to complete by November. And you know, I was totally honest with people. Like, to be honest, it was towards the end of November that I think I was reading that. So it was definitely like, hey, this is what I want to complete by November. This is what I know I'm going to have a hard time with. This is what I've already have completed. And it was really cool. It was really cool to be able to read that because I always just put my short-term goals in my brain. And to be honest, it's really hard to like complete your goals if they're only up in your head. As soon as I wrote them down in this like journal that I got, it felt so nice to do that. It was so awesome to, I don't know, it just felt more realistic, like to write them down. And they're always in the back of my mind now that I've done that. So I ended November okay. There was it basically consisted of certain types of haircuts that I wanted to get done and complete by November, like a certain amount of them. It involved quitting smoking and the big one for me, aside from quitting smoking, was really changing my daily schedule. I have a hard time, like for work, I usually get up around like 7:30, get to work by 8:30, and I really want to change that. That's actually one that I've been struggling with the most, is just being able to get up at like 5:30, and like go to the gym and stuff. Like since I started school, I kind of fell off with like the gym. I was going every single day, and I was really seeing good results, and overall I was feeling really good about myself. And the one that I've been having a hard time with is getting up in the morning. I'll explain. It's tough when you work. So basically, I work from 8 to 4, right? And then I go right from work. I may stop home for like a few minutes to grab my barber stuff, and then go to school. And then by the time I get home, it's like 10 o'clock. And I don't feel right about, like, if I want to get up at 5, I would have to come home, brush my teeth, and basically go right to bed. I have a hard time being okay with that, because I don't want my days to just consist of work, school, work, school, work, school, and not have any time in there for myself just to decompress and like watch a movie or have a drink or whatever. So every single day, it's like what happens is I go to work, I go to school, and I come home and I stay up from like 10 till like midnight or past midnight. I pass out on the couch, and I have a hard time waking up every single day. So I don't really know what I have to do to make this morning schedule thing work. The only thing that I see that could potentially work is if I just go to bed when I get home, and don't, like, I would have to sacrifice that, you know. So then it just comes down to, am I willing to sacrifice that decompression time so that I can get up earlier? Will the morning become my time to kind of decompress before the day? I don't know. So that one is a tough one, but I do have some goals for December, which I'm not going to read today, but I'm going to read them probably in the next episode, But all in all, I'm really excited about this podcast. I hope you guys are too. Feel free to leave any comments below. If you have any ideas, or if you just want to say what's up, I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe as well. It's not a lot of subscribers right now. I got like 17, but here's what I will say. I went from like 5 or 6 to 17, which isn't a ton. But two things: it takes a long time to grow your fan base with YouTube, because there's so many people out there doing something similar to what I'm doing. But it's really cool. It's really cool. Like the other day I had 15 and I have 17. I'm like, dude, that's obviously something I'm doing is working. So I appreciate the people that are subscribers. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to me. I feel like I'm gonna do this episode probably like once, or this podcast once a week. I'm at least gonna try. And eventually you guys will start seeing like different people on here. You're gonna see some guests. I have some really cool people that I hang out with that would be, that would love to be on here. I've had a few people request it, so really excited about that. You may also see a live stream later today. I have somebody, one of my friends, coming for a haircut, so I'm debating whether or not I want to live stream that. I feel like that could be pretty cool to live stream it. So you may be part of that. The only problem is I'm gonna have some music on, and I think with live streaming they're gonna shut it down if I do that. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you look in the description, I put my Instagram in there, so you can add me on Instagram. That you're gonna find a lot more updated content, like daily, on there, like pictures of like the haircuts that I'm doing, and different stuff. Like, you're gonna see more content on there than you will currently on here, just because there's a lot of brainstorming and stuff that goes into like making these videos and whatnot. And I really want this to be like the cream of the crop content for you guys. So once again, thank you. You guys enjoy your weekend, and I will see you soon.